Welcome to Developing the Leader Within podcast, the podcast that brings you leadership insights from the brightest minds shaping our world. Join us as we dive into conversation with trailblazers, innovators, and change makers, spanning every corner of the globe. Get ready to explore new perspectives, gain actionable insights, and become the leader the world needs today. Unleash your potential. Tune into Developing the Leader Within podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Let's embark on this transformative journey together. Developing the Leader Within podcast, leading beyond limits.
Welcome back, everyone. If you haven't subscribed, please do so right now, as it'll help us get our show to others and help us get to our next milestone. Make sure to catch us streaming on Parade Deck, on Roku, and Amazon Fire TV on the Purpose Place Network, and catch our exclusive members-only content, Going Deeper Within, on the Lions Guide Academy. Today, we are speaking with Dr. Cindy Goodwin-Sak. Cindy is the founder of Valiant Leadership. She is a keynote speaker, an author, leadership researcher, and mom. She helps you create an environment where diversity thrives, innovation flourishes, and employee engagement soars. And I love that. Cindy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Enrique. It's so good to be here. Thank you for the invite.
And we're excited to have you and host you. Folks, we will be speaking about Stop Managing, Start Leading, the accountability revolution. But before we get into that conversation, Cindy, tell us a little bit about you.
I used to be in technology. I still am. I still like to think I'm a bit of a techie, but I started out in the .com time. I just happened to be fortunate enough to get to ride that .com wave. And then I eventually, after shutting down a couple of .coms, unfortunately, I ended up working for Cisco Systems. And after, I think maybe 7 or 8 years as an individual contributor, I was a sales engineer there. I ended up moving into management and leadership, and I spent 18 years there in all kinds of different leadership roles, which was an amazing experience. I left Cisco to go work for a small cybersecurity startup. The goal was to take them through an IPO. They didn't quite make it to the IPO, but it was an amazing experience. And I have always wanted to do my own thing. And so having seen all of the unique leadership styles at different levels of different organizations, I was just really passionate about codifying what it means to be a great leader. So that's me.
And I love that, codifying what it is to be a great leader. That, if anybody has experience working with computer scientists, they focus on that thing,
Yes.
but they're so great at it. And to be able to bridge that individual trait of that most computer scientists kind of embody, and also add the flavor of leadership that's more sparse. When you're helping an organization define what great leadership means for their culture, what's the most surprising trait you've seen rise to the top that traditional models often overlook?
I'll say the most surprising is humility. We don't talk about it a lot. And as a culture, at least in the United States, we tend to promote the person who speaks the most in a meeting, or we promote the most assertive person. We tend to end up with a lot of narcissists in our leadership, and it's just because they talk a lot. And so humility in itself, actually, there's a significant amount of research about the strength of humility in leadership. And so humility often rises to the top, but it surprises most companies when it ends up at the top of their list.
And it's kind of weird that they would be surprised that having a sense of humility could actually be a bonus to your leadership cycle and your leadership journey. But I understand also that we are raised with this command and control type of force to
Mm.
how we expect leaders to be. I was once at a job that they literally told me, "We want you to come in here like the military." And I said, "That's not what I do."
Right. Yes, agreed. Yes. Yeah.
And, yeah,
Well,
and so it was surprising.
yes. Well, we tend to promote the people who are best at what they did as well, right? Uh, so we promote experts into leadership roles. It's very, very common. And I work with a lot of tech companies. So the idea that the leader has to know everything is somewhat pervasive in a lot of tech work companies, and it's also somewhat pervasive in portions of the military or branches of the military. Uh, Turn the Ship Around is a book written by a Navy. Yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm trying to remember his name. It's not coming to me right now. But his point was he was supposed to know how every single system on the submarine worked, and he studied it. And when he went to go take command of the submarine, he ended up in a different type of submarine, so he didn't know it all, and he had to rely on his crew. And I thought, my goodness, that's like how the rest of the world works. Yeah, that's the idea, is that we tend to promote a lot of experts, and that humility isn't necessarily considered a component of their role or the expectation when they go into that role.
Yeah, that's Admiral Marquette, right? The
Mm.
so he's
Yeah.
and in those systems, and you're right, we tend to take those technically savvy and seemingly experts
Mhm.
and then expect them to have this ability to lead
Mhm.
is a very treacherous kind of like transaction that we often see, and that we see the ramifications of
Mm.
that choice.
Agree.
That is that, hey, they were great at what they did,
Mhm.
they're just not great with people, right? In
Right.
general. And so now we have this design flaw. And talk about design. If you had to design a leadership development program from, with zero PowerPoint slides, no lectures, and no titles, just action, what would that look like?
I actually do something similar to this uh, in my own teams. I call it a rules of engagement workshop. And when I form a team initially, I ask everybody to share what's one thing that worked in a team or with a leader previously that they would love to have repeated on this team. And then I ask them what's one experience that they've had previously that they never want to experience again in the context of a leader or a leader and team. And from that, we build essentially, you could call it guiding principles or a code of conduct. I call it rules of engagement. But we essentially co-create rules for each other on how we'll behave, how we're going to communicate with each other, and our expectations of each other. And so uh, the team sets the rules and the expectations. And for me, that is the definition, setting clear expectations and leading by example and fulfilling those expectations. For me, that's the perfect leadership training, because you are all leaders in this endeavor, and the commitment to each other is here's how we're going to behave, and then fulfilling that commitment to me is just a great demonstration of leadership.
Yeah, absolutely. And one that a lot of folks are challenged with, right? The clear expectations. What are we wanting to do? What's the goal? I often ask my children
Mhm.
when they want to do something, what's the goal? Let's
To
get
go
clear
exactly
on that, and then we
right.
could take different steps on how to get there. And talking about taking different steps on how to get places, a lot of things have changed throughout the years. We've had decades between
Mhm.
you and I in our experience with leadership, our journey and experience. So, you often challenge outdated management models.
Mhm.
What's one leadership truth you believe today that would have gotten you laughed out of a boardroom 20 years ago?
You start with empathy. Absolutely. You were kind enough to share some of these topics in advance, and I thought about that, and I was like, oh, if I used the word empathy 20 years ago, 30 years ago, oh my goodness, that would not have gone well. But I think that's, a primary leadership trait is empathy and understanding, or at least attempting to understand another human's perspective and what they might be going through. And I think that's got to be the core, almost near the core. There are a few things that I think are key to leadership today, but empathy has to be near the top, or the top
You
trait.
said that, and I envisioned this. It truly would have been
Oh yeah,
something that people would have chuckled at. And like, what is that even, right? They probably didn't even know where it resided in the dictionary.
exactly. And so when I first became a manager and I was working with, sales engineering leaders work with sales manager leaders, right? You usually have a technical seller and an engineer that go together in a sale. And so I was working with the sales manager, and I don't remember what I was talking about, but he literally patted me on the head and said, "Don't you worry your pretty little head." And I was like, yeah. I was like, that's exactly what would have happened to me if I had said empathy. Like, oh, that's so cute.
Yeah, it's unfortunate to look back on those days and say, "Wow, that was normal." I mean,
Yeah,
we really
exactly.
accepted that as the way it is. But it goes to show you, folks, that time can change things.
Absolutely.
And if you allow your persistence to remain throughout that time, you will see the change that you want to see. It's just that we are very cultural in nature, and we are very beholding to things and values that we think at the time will serve us. But what served you in one area may not serve you in another, and especially if you give time, right? So if somebody were to come and try to do what we did 20 years ago today, they'll get laughed out of a boardroom, right? So look at
Sure.
that, how that changed. Now, in
Absolutely.
your experience, Cindy, what's the fastest way to detect if leadership in a company is simply a title versus a responsibility?
For me, it is integrity. So, leadership by title lacks integrity. Leadership by example has integrity. So, do leaders set return to work policies that apply to themselves as well? Like, if those kinds of things. So, it for me, it's entirely about integrity.
Yeah, that's such a powerful word. It has been used throughout the last couple decades, but not as often as like today, right?
Mhm.
There's this thing, and I've never seen an action become so evident and so powerful in the common day community that it has become a byword.
Mm.
Coldplay used to be a band until somebody got busted cheating
Exactly.
at a Coldplay concert, and now they say if you got Coldplayed, you got caught cheating. This,
That's right.
this is crazy.
It is crazy. Absolutely. It's I was just sharing this statistic with some folks. I do a little bit of, leadership training and coaching, and if you cheat on your spouse, you are significantly more likely to defraud your organization. So basically, your integrity in your personal life is the same as your integrity in your work life. So, so you can basically, like, you either have integrity or you don't. And I think so when we see leaders that lead that don't, their words and actions don't align. That's what integrity means to me. Words and actions align always. When their words and actions don't align, we can just assume that they probably don't align in their personal lives either.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's I don't want to find out. I don't want to see it, right? I don't want it to play out in somebody else's life,
Mm,
but I believe that as well, that you cannot be one way at work and another at home and it be a lasting type of thing.
Oh,
You you
100%.
you have numbered your days in one or the other, either at
Right.
home or at work, but you in a sense have just basically sealed your fate when you are that type of person. I know because I did experience that personally.
Mm,
And so I know that you are numbering your days. Now, if leadership impact were a currency, and currency is one of those things that are changing even as we speak,
hmm
what's the most undervalued coin leaders could invest in right now for the biggest return in, let's say, 5 years?
Curiosity. So if you were to invest in one leadership area, it would be curiosity. That will get you, that will have the maximum return in the next 5 years. And it's largely because it takes a lot of humility. It takes a lot of self awareness to be curious because you have to be comfortable being wrong. But curiosity is what opens the door to empathy, to new ideas, to innovation. I think curiosity is where it's at. Does that
Curiosity.
does that align with your analogy of
Wow.
currency?
Wow.
I think
Wow.
yeah.
That is so undervalued. You, and I had other things, but curiosity is the key to opening doors, not only for yourself, but for others. Because
Right.
I've often talked about the leaders that say, what if? But
Mhm.
not in the negative what if, because you could do that. What if I had done this? And no, what if I opened this door?
Right. Yeah.
Where would it lead for me? Or where would it lead for this person that I'm trying to kind of like push ahead? Because a
Mhm.
lot of leaders, they see the hand down just to pull them up where you are. Sometimes it's to pull you so far that you go ahead, even if
Right.
the leader doesn't.
Right. Absolutely. Well, and a long time ago, I was at Cisco. I can't remember what the decision was at the time, but there was a decision made, in leadership and rolled down, and I, for the life of me, couldn't understand why. Like I remember having like a visceral reaction to it, and then I paused and I thought, I was like, Cindy, these people are not dumb. They're just not. The people who run large companies, they're very intelligent people. They know what they're doing. And so I paused and I asked, well, why would they? So here's what I have. Here's what I know. So what situation would make it right that they would make this decision? And that changed my whole world because now when I see a decision rolled out, I start to understand like what are the pieces that are in place that would make that seem like the right decision because I don't understand them yet. And and so actually when I talk with people about strategic thinking, that's the first thing I tell them is if you see anything that you disagree with, the first thing you should ask is what are the parameters that would make that feel right in my mind? And then the whole concept of the systems around you just broadens at that point. So for me, that's the curiosity.
Absolutely. Yeah, wonderful discussion here, Cindy. Thank you so much for all that you've shared. Now, some of the listeners may say, I need to dive in a little more into what Cindy's up to. So, what do you have coming up, and where can the viewer or the listener follow you or support you?
I appreciate that. So I am actually releasing a new book here in a couple months. It's called Reinventing Management. It is a story of a company that has gone through an AI adoption, and the things that worked and things that didn't. And then a friend of mine and I have a little podcast that we run, a tiny little one, nothing like yours, but it's called seriously, what could they be thinking? And when you talk about curiosity, that's exactly what we do. We look at decisions that hit the headlines. One of them was when Walmart CEO said openly that they might have to raise prices, knowing that Amazon had just gotten beaten up by over saying they might have to raise prices. So why would they make that decision? Why would they say that out loud? And that's what we do. We try to understand what decisions they could be facing and why they might choose to do one thing over another. So seriously, what could they be thinking? It's a podcast.
Folks, we will have all those links and opportunities for you to support Cindy and all that she's doing. Also, put the podcast on there. And please let me know about the book when it comes out. I'll keep tabs anyway, but to make sure to push it out and have an opportunity for those to participate and support you there. Well, folks, thank you for being with us today. Today's episode is sponsored by the Global Trends Magazine, The Outlier Project, Fantail Services, Southern Sweet and Sassy Coffee, Ascend Meditations, and Chop AI. And if you've enjoyed this episode and learned something interesting about the topic covered today, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and let us know by leaving a comment. Tune in next week for another episode where we dissect leadership from another angle. And as we like to end the show, success to you.